The next Assassin's Creed game that was in early works was just scrapped. In this video, we'll break down what's known so far, why the game was reportedly shelved, how fans and insiders are reacting, and what this might mean for the future of Assassin's Creed. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get to the video, news just dropped that the head of the Assassin's Creed franchise, Mark Alexis Cote, had been basically demoted. Ubisoft made it seem like he made a voluntary departure from the role, but Cote stated on Twitter, I believe, that he did not make this decision, but that Ubisoft wanted to transfer the leadership to someone else. Now, what does this mean for the Assassin's Creed franchise? Good question. I don't know. But with it now being under Vantage Studios, hopefully it gets more creative and the right leadership that it needs. Just wanted to give that little fun news while it just came out, and now back to the video. Hello everyone. Welcome back. My name is Shanties, and today we got some interesting news coming out of Ubisoft. The company has reportedly canceled and scrapped the next or one of the future installments of the Assassin's Creed franchise. So what was this canceled game about? Let's start with the details we have. According to reports from GameFile and multiple industry sources, Ubisoft pulled the plug on a new Assassin's Creed game that had been in early development. Here's what we know about the concept. The setting would have been post-Civil War America during the Reconstruction era, which was in the 1860s and the 1870s. The protagonist was going to be a formerly enslaved black man from the American South who moves west, then is recruited by the Assassin Brotherhood and returns to confront the rise of the Ku Klux Klan in the South. The project was described as being in early development or in concept, not yet too far along. So this would have been one of the more modern settings the franchise had ever attempted, and one of the more politically charged. And not gonna lie, the concept for the story actually sounded very interesting. Yeah, this would have leaned heavily on America's history, but it wouldn't be the first in the series to do so. But it would certainly be about race and politics. So why would this game be canceled? The sources point to a blend of internal caution and external pressures. Here are the key reasons being reported. 1. Fear of political backlash and sensitivity. Multiple sources say that Ubisoft management felt the game would be too political for the current US climate, and the subject matter, race, racial violence, white supremacist groups, was apparently considered too controversial. GameFile put it bluntly, too political in a country too unstable. It is a shame that the politics in America had influence over this. Of course, not actual influence, but they're too scared to release a game that wouldn't sell. But if I'm being completely real, this probably would sell greatly in America because gamers want a game that is good and well written. Plus, this wouldn't be the first game to portray a group of people as evil. I mean, just look at the Wolfenstein series. The game was all about taking down Nazis after they won World War II. The KKK was not well liked even amongst Americans. I think we'd have a grand time tearing down the supremacist group. And 2. Backlash to Assassin's Creed Shadows and Yasuke. The prior controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed was in Shadows, which features a black samurai, Yasuke, is cited as part of the rationale. Some at Ubisoft reportedly saw the negative reactions to that as a warning sign and wanted to reduce risk going forward. To me though, what they saw as a level of risk is changing the views of being a samurai. Ubisoft completely took a different approach. Being a samurai was honorable and it took enormous training. And the character that made a samurai was never one historically. In real history, Yasuke was an African man who arrived in Japan around 1579 with Jesuit missionaries. He served Oda Nobunaga, one of Japan's most powerful warlords at the time. And historical accounts confirm Yasuke was given a sword and some status, but not the formal rank or social position of a samurai. On the flip side, another wave of backlash came from Western and online audiences, accusing Ubisoft of injecting modern identity politics into Japanese history. The argument here was that Ubisoft was trying to appease Western diversity expectations by centering a black protagonist in feudal Japan. 3. Internal risk, aversion, and corporate caution. Because the project was still early, canceling it might have been seen as a lower risk move than proceeding further down a path that could provoke public relations issues. Sources described frustration amongst devs who were excited about the story but felt stifled by top-down caution. I understand that companies need to be cautious, but you can't tiptoe around every topic. If you want to stand out, you need to be bold and take risks. Yes, politics is tough, but you have to avoid causing issues and controversy. You have to avoid taking a political side. Take Ghost of Yotei, for example, the dev that made light of the Charlie Kirk assassination. It not only brought a lot of heat upon Sucker Punch, but was making headlines in all the wrong ways. Of course, there was consumer backlash from different groups of people, and thanks to this developer, now Sucker Punch was in a lose-lose situation. Firing her made people angry because of the First Amendment for freedom of speech, and if they didn't fire her, there were other groups of people who would be angry. In the end, despite the political views, gamers will choose what they want to play. And they did just that. In the first week, despite all the controversy, it sold 1.6 million units. And this shows that gamers don't care about woke or political movements. This is our genre, our hobby. We don't want other people's views who don't take part in this to change or affect how our games come out. At present, Ubisoft has not yet publicly confirmed or denied the reports. Whether the cancellation is permanent or whether the concept might be revisited remains unknown. But knowing Ubisoft, they certainly won't come back to this. That's just my opinion. So how is the community taking this? Now, you may still be a fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise and didn't hear about this. Well, that's partially the goal. If you're trying to avoid controversy, you don't want any of it in the spotlight. Making things go away is a lot easier the less people know about it. But for a lot of players who do, especially longtime Assassin's Creed fans, this was gut-wrenching. Many feel Ubisoft finally had the chance to do something bold, explore the Reconstruction era, a time rarely touched in games, and a telltale story through the eyes of a freed black man navigating America's darkest chapter. This could have evolved the Assassin's Creed franchise beyond the same historical formula. Now that creative spark has been snuffed out before it even had a trailer. Some people have said Ubisoft finally had something powerful and they ran scared. Imagine the soundtrack, the atmosphere, the tension. It could have been incredible. So over the past few years, Ubisoft faced accusations of playing everything safe, repetitive open world design, predictable story beats, and heavy monetization. Canceling a project for being too political only reinforced that image. As one developer reportedly said anonymously, "We used to make games about revolution, rebellion, and freedom, and now we're afraid to offend anyone." That line alone sums up about how many in the industry feel where the AAA storytelling is heading. This isn't just about Ubisoft. This moment reflects a bigger issue in gaming. Studios want historical authenticity, but only when it's comfortable. When history involves slavery, racism, or colonialism, suddenly it becomes too controversial. And that raises a question: how can you make games about history while avoiding the uncomfortable parts of it? If every major studio avoids tough themes because of risk, then we're left with sanitized versions of history, beautiful worlds with nothing meaningful to say. It's the kind of decision that pushes players toward indie studios, the ones not afraid to take creative or cultural risks, the ones who have nothing to lose. Reports also say that this decision sent a chilling message inside Ubisoft itself. Developers who are passionate about storytelling, especially those wanting to explore marginalized histories, now feel discouraged. And I don't blame them, but hey, if Ubisoft wants to keep pushing their developers and writers away, I don't mind receiving more Sandfall interactives. Their loss is our gain. If Broche wasn't bored at Ubisoft, he wouldn't have left and we wouldn't have received Expedition 33. So I'm not complaining. So when a project gets canceled for being too political before it's even announced, that sends a clear message. Play safe. Don't pitch anything that could stir headlines. But that's the opposite of what Assassin's Creed was founded on. Remember, this is the series that tackled religion, corruption, and free will through secret wars between assassins and Templars. Now, it seems like Ubisoft doesn't want to rock the boat, at least not in the modern climate. But you know, it's kind of ironic. Assassin's Creed was built on political storytelling. The entire franchise is rooted in the struggle between freedom and control, oppression and rebellion, all the messy gray areas that exist between them. So when Ubisoft says a setting is too political, it almost contradicts what made the series great in the first place. From the very first game in 2007, the core philosophy of the Assassins was question everything. Altair's story wasn't just about stealth kills, it was about rejecting dogma, challenging authority, and fighting for individual freedom in a world run by tyrants and religious zealots. That motto,
"Nothing is true. Everything is permitted,"
wasn't a call to chaos. It was a reminder to think critically about systems of control. That's political by design. Each entry in the series used history to explore how power corrupts and how ordinary people get caught in the middle of political systems. Ezio's trilogy examined corruption within the Catholic Church and the rise of Renaissance political elites. Connor in Assassin's Creed 3 fought not just for American independence, but for nativist survival, showing how even revolutions born in freedom could still oppress others. Arno in Unity navigated the chaos of the French Revolution, where freedom and terror became two sides of the same coin. Bayek and Aya in Origins built the Assassin Brotherhood as a rebellion against empire and tyranny. Even Valhalla and Odyssey were drenched in political tension, the clash of belief systems, gods, and rulers shaping entire civilizations. In every one of these stories, politics weren't a distraction, they were the story. The Assassins and Templars have always represented two political ideologies. The Assassins fight for individual freedom and free will, believing people should choose their own path, even if that means chaos. The Templars believe in order, control, and the idea that peace can only come through obedience. That's not just fantasy, that's democracy versus authoritarianism. Oh, I'm so saying that wrong. Authoritarianism. Independence versus conformity. Assassin's Creed used those ideas to ask real-world questions. How much freedom should we trade for safety? Who decides what's right for humanity? And how far would you go to defend your beliefs? So, what's even left of the Creed? If the company that once encouraged players to question authority starts avoiding controversial topics, the Creed itself is being silenced. So, I know I'm making it sound more dramatic than what it is, but that is a common problem in plenty of games nowadays. These games and franchises were made to tell stories that people can resonate and understand, but when you stray away from the sole purpose of those games, then the authenticity kind of disappears, and even if a game isn't technically slop, it can feel that way, because we fell in love with different games for their identity. It's important to understand a game and its identity so it can resonate with its fans. Take One Piece, for example. It's actually quite similar to Assassin's Creed. At their core, Assassin's Creed and One Piece explore the same moral foundation, the eternal tension between freedom and authority. Both narratives ask, what does true freedom mean, and what's the cost of achieving it? They're about rebellion, individuality, and breaking the chains, literal and metaphorical, of those who impose their vision of peace or justice onto others. In Assassin's Creed, the Templars want peace through control. In One Piece, the world government wants peace through censorship and domination. Both antagonists believe the end justifies the means, and both heroes refuse to live in that kind of world. The Straw Hat Pirates are a walking symbol of freedom and liberation. Luffy is the embodiment of Joy Boy, the bringer of freedom. Their fight to gain power and overthrow the corrupt world government is to bring freedom and liberation to the world. Many fans resonate with One Piece and its ideals, which is why the Straw Hat flag has become a symbol of anti-corruption protests in Indonesia and Nepal. This shows how deeply modern storytelling, whether through games or anime, can shape real-world ideology. For a generation raised on One Piece, Luffy's Straw Hat is more than a pirate flag. It's a call for honesty, courage, and rebellion against corruption. The exact same spirit the Assassins represent with their Hidden Blade and Hooded Creed. So, to me, this is fascinating and also a troubling development. On one hand, the idea for that cancelled game had some serious narrative promise. But on the other hand, the reported cancellation underscores how much corporate risk still influences game decisions, especially when dealing with history, identity, and politics. I'd love to hear what you have to think. Did Ubisoft make the right call given the risks? Or should they have pushed forward, willing to take on controversy to tell a meaningful story? What's the future you want to see for the Assassin's Creed franchise? I, for one, want to see them take risks and challenge themselves to bring stories that either aren't touched upon normally or ones that continue to challenge social norms. Drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, then you might like this breakdown of the EA buyout and how I believe it's the right move for gaming. If you want to see more of these, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll be covering more stories like this in the gaming industry as they occur. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.